He's watching you, Frank. He wants to understand you, see what's important to you, so he can manipulate you.
First of all, congratulations on the show. I loved every minute of it. It was on the edge of my seat. And I feel like for your character, the wife of a cop role can like really quickly fall into sort of tropey or cliche territory, but you make Sarah feel so real and so layered. So
Okay, you are now my favorite of all time. Today, you're my favorite. I'm done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This went great.
That's a lovely thing to say. And I absolutely agree because you do get that cliche, oh, honey, don't go out there with your big gun. Be careful out there, like, and I purposely, it was so well written though, right? Like, it's well written. So I was just kind of rolling with what was on the page, obviously. But he didn't make her cliche. If anything, she's the complete opposite. And she calls Frank on his shit. And she calls herself on it too. And she's a real woman. I feel like she really is somebody who we all know in a way, right? So I just made her stronger and more realistic and authentic, especially on screen. I wanted her to look very real. So, yeah. So thank you for saying that.
Yes, absolutely. I was curious if there was anything specific that you talked to John and Richard about sort of bringing to the role, because I've heard that they are very collaborative. So I'm curious if there was like elements that you were like, maybe we should have her do this or say this.
Well, he is incredibly collaborative, as was, there were some times I thought maybe I pushed her a bit too far. Like I felt I moved into a bit of Simone territory. Like when Sarah had the shits with Frank in the car and she's like, you're not telling me something. He's like, you're not telling me something. I felt that's kind of how I argue a bit. So maybe I made her a little bit too Simone. But that said, John, every time I went to John and Richard with a question, they were like, absolutely, bring it. And that was so great. They were so great. Everybody was, you never felt trapped. We had freedom as actors to bring something to the table. And they were like, yeah, let's try it, right? Which is so refreshing. I've been on a lot of shows where that is not a thing. So first of all, the team was supportive. Knowing Jason as well as I do, we got to really trust each other in those scenes, which means you can really go there. You can really like go there. And everybody was supportive of that. So how lucky am I?
Yeah, I love that. And I love that Sarah is so scrappy and she can really hold her own. So I'm curious what some of the stunt work was like. I mean, you're fighting people on stairs, you're running people over with cars.
Oh my God, the running over. Like. Okay, I didn't do that stunt. And I didn't realize until I saw it how she just totally takes out Clifton. She just drives over him and then goes to a bar. And then just starts dancing, right? And I'm just like, she's gangster. I think that's the fun part of the show, right? The fact that she gets to, throw things down. I love the fighting stuff with Dominic. That was a great day. That was so much fun. I got to lean into that. I like doing the action stuff. So I'm hoping there's more, really, it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Sarah frequently gets on Frank about being too invested in his work, but we sort of do see Sarah displaying some similar traits, like how she wants to go back to work without the counselor signing off. Do you think they're more similar in that regard than Sarah would like to admit?
Perhaps. And I have not heard this. And this is the first time it's been brought to my attention. So that said, Smarty Pants, I think you might be right. Because she does. She's just kind of like, yeah, that's quite funny when she's meant to be in therapy, right? And she's like, come on, I don't need this. But clearly she does. I do like the fact that she's a workaholic. I think she's got so much going on. She's pragmatic. And she's just like, let's just get on with it. Why lament? I need to get on with it, right? So I liked that about her. And then, she goes in the car with her ex-boyfriend or something, and then off they go. Look, it's so much fun because there are the big dramatic moments, the heartbreaking moments, which we see later on in the season. But also then we've got the fun, like the driving over a character and, the crazy kind of, cinematic part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that balance. And I really love Sarah and Sydney's relationship too, because we don't see a whole lot of it, but when we do, it's so loaded and so powerful. Like when Sydney's questioning her after the kidnapping and they have that little moment outside the bar after the wake. How did you sort of read that relationship and dynamic? Because I just thought it was so rich and so layered.
Well, especially because I'm smoking a joint outside the bar, right? I have just run over with somebody, so, she needs a little hit. Yeah, that was random. I think they don't lean into it so much, but I do think Sarah sees her for what she is. I think Sarah's the only one who actually goes, I see you. I don't know who you are, and I don't really trust you. And you're not one of us. And I like that. Perhaps we could have leaned into it more. But I think Sarah's the only one who actually does see her for what she is. But she's got so much else going on in her life and on her plate that she just lets it go. But yeah, that's a really interesting point. I like that.
Yeah, I hope we get to see more of that. Not to spoil, but if we get a season 2, I would love to see more of that.
Yeah.
I also love that family is obviously like the most important thing to Sarah. So I'm curious, what do you imagine her own family and childhood to have been like to sort of get her there in adulthood, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think she did it tough. I think she's one of those women that just gets on with it. And so I think, as we know, with no spoilers, the most horrific thing has happened to her, but she's one of those people that's like, right, I need to get on with it because if I don't, I'm going to fall apart. When we get like that and in life. And so that was really interesting. I think you could pop her. Do you know what I mean? Like she's that fragile, but instead she holds her head higher. She's got this mana, this real strength to her. But if you pop her, she will just dissolve. And she knows that. And so wearing that and holding that, and I played her in a physicality of that. Yeah, and I think that works for that storyline until she just gets up and leaves.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you would.
I also love how she really passes her strength and skills on to Luke because you see him being so smart with like the salt on the road and stuff. So I think it's so fun to see that that's really been passed down.
The salt on the road. Look at you. You've really watched it.
I really watched it.
Well, I love that you really watched it. They're really smart questions. Yeah, he does. He stands his ground. That's right. Yeah, we're in the middle of a fight, right? And then he's like, wait, there's salt on the road. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I think those little elements just make the writing so smart and make it so engaging. But I think it is very funny because this is obviously a very different show than Yellowjackets, but there are some sort of naturally hilarious parallels with like the plane crash in the wilderness.
In Canada.
What do you make of those similarities?
Weird. Like of all the storylines, right? Like it's so weird. I mean, thank goodness I don't join a cult in this.
Not yet.
Not yet. Season 2. But I think, yeah, that was very strange when I read it. And I'm getting a lot of like Yellowjacket fans going, oh, don't get on a plane with Simone kind of thing. It's funny. It's great. But look, I love Canada and I loved filming in Montreal. In fact, I was finishing Yellowjackets while I was filming The Last Frontier. So there was a bit of back and forth, which was crazy, like going from a caftan to, like the nurses' scrubs. It was just weird. But that said, I think, yeah, they're vastly different shows. And I think with Last Frontier, it's just such escapism television. And it's fun. And it's got twists and turns. And it's for the smart viewer. And I think you just don't know what you're going to get. And for that, I had the time of my life on it. And yeah, I really just, because I watched the whole thing, I just really, binged it, and the turn at the end is fantastic. So yeah, it's great.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking to you. And I can't wait for everyone to see the show and a season 2. We're crossing our fingers.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you. You've got hair like Lottie.
Oh my God.
You've got the same hair.
Nicest thing ever.